Hello everyone. Let us to the new session on formatting of analog data, which is basically done in three steps: sampling, quantizing, and encoding. So if you can remember, in the previous session we have discussed about the information source, which was basically present in terms of textual information, was formatted and encoded to transmit the baseband signal. So now we are looking at how do we convert the given analog signal in the form of a digital signal. So to do so, we have the topic, which is formatting of analog data or analog signal, which is done by making use of sampling technique. So coming for how do we transmit or how do we transfer this analog data or convert this analog data into digital data. It is done in three steps in digital communication system. One is sampling, and the second step is quantizing and encoding, and the third step we have baseband transmission. The baseband transmission is done by converting the encoded data in the form of a PCM wave, which is again at the receiver end is reconstructed back by making use of a low pass filter and then getting back the analog form of the PCM wave. So let us see how the sampling is done, or first understand what is this sampling is. It's basically the process of converting the given analog waveform or a continuous time signal in the form of a discrete signal or in the form of a digital signal. We call this as sampling. So it can be called as a process of measuring the instantaneous values of continuous time signal in the discrete form. Then what is that instantaneous value that I'm measuring? So that instantaneous value or the piece of that particular data, we call it as a sample. Out of the given complete data, we are going to make use of what is called as a sample. This sample is going to tell us whether the whole data is broken down into small pieces of samples or discrete values. So now when we are doing this sampling, what is basically that we are trying to do is we are trying to discretize the analog signal. We are trying to discretize the analog signal, which is a process which we call it as sampling. You can now see that there is a continuous waveform which is given. So the continuous waveform here is represented as x of t, and the sampled waveform we are trying to represent it as xs of t. What is this xs of t? You can see whatever the sample waveform that is available here, the pulse or the impulse is trying to trace those amplitudes, and we are trying to get those amplitudes which is similar to that of this continuous waveform. So that is what we are trying to do here. We are trying to discretize the given analog signal in the form of impulse or a pulse train and convert those pulse trains, which are nothing but we are trying to encode it in the form of a bits as zeros and ones. So now let us look at how that is done. As an example, here one more continuous signal is being taken. So the continuous signal we are trying to represent it as g of t, and then the discretized signal with the help of an impulse we are trying to represent it as g delta of t. So this g delta of t is nothing but the impulse train which is trying to take the amplitudes of the continuous time signal. So you can see the amplitudes here, it is trying to match with the amplitudes of the continuous time signal, and the spacing between each of the impulse is ts. So let us understand what is the space this is, or what is this gap is called as. So this, as of now, we are trying to representing it as ts, which we are going to call it as the sample period, the period with which I am trying to place each one of the samples. So now the same signal which I was talking of in the previous case as an analog signal represented in an discrete values. Now I am looking at the same signal which is band limited to W, which is band limited to W. From 0 to W, the bandwidth of that G of t signal is what is the bandwidth of the signal on the positive x-axis, and then we have one more W which is minus W. So it is a band limited signal G of t which we are trying to consider. Then in the second figure here, it is representing us the spectrum of instantaneous samples, which is, as I already told, it is being spaced with a sample space, or it is being spaced with a sample period or a sampling period of Ts. So that sampling period is present here. So as of now, keep this as I am trying to represent the analog signal in the form of its frequency domain. Then at the last we have one more signal which is being given. This is basically the recovered original signal with the same bandwidth W, with the same band limited original bandwidth W after I get it at the output from the low pass filter. So now let us understand what is sampling rate. So we need to first understand what is the rate with which we are trying to space those samples, and that rate we are actually calling here as sampling rate, which is basically dependent on the period with which I am going to sample the signal, or it is going to depend on the frequency of the signal that is present. So to understand that, I have the sampling rate here. So what is this sampling rate is, it is to discretize the signals, the gap between the samples should be fixed. So we were talking of the impulse signals which was actually being present in our signal that we were trying to transmit. So the gap between these two signals, the gap between these two signals. So we need to fix the gap between each one of the signal. So that the fixture of the gap, or the fixture of a space between each one of the samples, we call it as sampling period, and the time with which I'm going to place both of them is what is called as the sampling period and represented as Ts. So now any frequency, we know it is reciprocal of the time. So sampling frequency Fs, I can get it as 1 over Ts. What is Ts? Ts is the sampling time. What is Fs? Fs is the sampling frequency or the sampling rate, the rate at which I am trying to place the samples of a given analog signal. So that is what we call it as sampling rate. Then coming for the definition, basic definition of sampling frequency, we can call it as a reciprocal of sampling period, or this sampling frequency can be simply just called as what is called as sampling rate. The sampling rate always denotes the number of samples that has to be considered per second, or it is always going to be a finite set of value. So it is going to be the samples per second under consideration, and it is always going to be a finite set of value. Now we have to understand one more very important definition which has to be considered in our digital communication system, that too specifically in sampling, is what we call it as Nyquist rate. So it is named after the scientist Nyquist, so that's the name Nyquist rate. So now let us consider a band limited signal. So when I say band limited signal, the signal is going to be present only from minus omega to plus omega with no frequency components higher than my W hertz. So when I consider such a kind of um signal, so band limited signal with omega hertz, this omega is going to be the highest frequency that I can set. Beyond this omega, I cannot set any other frequency. So that will be the uh, highest frequency which I can set it for having the samples being generated. For such a signal, for effective reproduction of original signal, the sampling rate should be twice the highest frequency. Whatever the highest frequency that I have considered, say suppose I am considering the highest frequency as 100 megahertz. The highest sampling frequency that I can get is Fs is equal to twice that of 100 megahertz, which is 200 megahertz. The sampling frequency cannot go beyond this, so it has to always lie at 200 megahertz. So this condition of having sampling frequency which is equal to twice that of the highest frequency, we call this as the Nyquist rate. And a theorem is been developed, or a theorem has been developed, which we call it as sampling theorem, which is in proportion or in relation with that of the Nyquist rate. So now let us first, we are at the beginning, we are trying to note what is sampling, what is sample, what is Nyquist rate, what is frequency or the sampling rate, and then now we are jumping into the main definition, which is going to rule the whole sampling process, which is sampling theorem. So coming to the statement, it can be defined in any of the ways, either of the ways. So one such definition is when a continuous time signal is represented in its samples and can be recovered back when sampling frequency Fs is greater than or equal to the twice that of the highest frequency component of a message signal. We call that as a sampling theorem, or that is defined as sampling theorem. So that is one statement which I referred here, that is any continuous time signal can be represented in the form of samples or in the form of sampling theorem when I have the frequency of the continuous time signal to be greater than or equal to twice that of the frequency of the message signal. So that is one statement, and then we have another statement which is given here, which is a signal can be exactly reproduced if it is sampled at a rate Fs. Keep this in mind, this rate Fs is going to play a greater role or a major role in reconstruction of the original message signal. So if I have a sampled rate Fs which is greater than twice that of the maximum frequency F. So that is what we have looked in the previous slide as Fs is equal to twice of omega, but now we are also making one more comment on the same thing, which is Fs should be greater than or equal to twice that of omega. So that is what is called as sampling theorem. So let us look at the types of sampling. So the types of sampling are impulse sampling, or we also call it as ideal sampling. Then we have natural sampling, we have flat top sampling. So I'll be looking into what is the first thing, that is the impulse sampling here, and then in our next sessions we will be concentrating on what is natural sampling and what is flat top sampling, or this flat top sampling is also called as sample and hold. Sample and hold. So we will be also looking at this particular kind of sampling. So let us understand, let us try to understand, know what is the first case, that is ideal sampling. So coming to ideal sampling or impulse sampling, as you can see, ideal sampling is achieved by basically multiplying a signal x of t by uniform train of impulses. So that is what is I am trying to consider a signal x of t, and I am considering one more signal which is train of impulses, where the impulses has to be placed or spaced at regular intervals. So that I am representing as x delta of t. And what is the output of that particular multiplier? The output of the multiplier is excess of t, which is the impulse sampled output, or which is the ideal sampled output. So which is nothing but xx of t is equal to x of t into x delta of t. Here we demonstrate the validity of the sampling theorem using frequency convolution property of our Fourier transform. Let us first consider an ideal sampling with an unit impulse functions. As we have already considered the product of these samples, that is x of t and x delta of t. So how is this x delta of t is represented? Is this x delta of t, that is unit impulse response, which is represented as summation n is equal to minus infinity to plus infinity delta of t minus nts, where n is going to be the number of impulse responses that I am considering with the spacing as ts, with the time interval as ts. So now on the other hand, on the other side, let us also try to consider the Fourier transform of the signal, which is the Fourier transform of your impulse response, which is given as 1 over ts summation n is going to tend from minus infinity to plus infinity delta of f minus n into fs. So all the time domain signals, all the time domain impulse response has been converted into frequency domain impulse response. So let us consider this particular thing. For this case, let us assume, or let us choose the sample rate Ts to be equal to 1 over 2 times of Fm, which is just trying to satisfy our Nyquist criteria or the Nyquist rate. So by the shifting property of impulse function, we know that any given signal x of t into delta of t minus t naught would be equal to x of t naught into delta of t minus t naught. So keep this shifting property of impulse function. So with the help of the same kind of impulse function shifting property, let us consider now the signal. So we have considered the output xs of t, which is equal to x of t into x delta of t. So when we multiply, we are going to get the output of this by time shifting property, or by the shifting property of your impulse function as n tends from minus infinity to plus infinity x of n ts into delta of t minus nts. So that would be the product output which we'll be getting for the function here after I multiply the continuous time analog signal under consideration, or when I do the convolution, frequency domain convolution, or the product of time domain product, I can represent it as a frequency domain convolution, which is basically this output. This frequency domain convolution is nothing but your xs of f into x delta of f, right? So that is what we call in case of frequency domain convolution. In time domain, we directly represent it as a product thing as x of t into x delta of t, right? So the output of this particular Fourier impulse train, which we have considered in frequency domain, is given by x delta of f to be equal to 1 over ts. Even when I take the convolution of, or the frequency domain convolution of the same, that is x of f into x delta of f, we will be getting the value which is equal to, or x s of f would be equal to as specified x of s convolution with x delta of f, so which we would be getting it as 1 over ts summation n to be equal to minus infinity to plus infinity x of f minus n into fs. So this is what is there for your sampled function of a given analog signal with that of the impulse signal. I am going to get the product of the same being represented as 1 over ts. But at the very beginning, what is that we have considered? We have considered the given signal or the given signal's sampling space to be equal to ts, which is equal to 1 over 2 times fm. By looking at this, we can say that the spectrum is uh, well within the bandwidth, the original bandwidth of the signal that we have considered. So what was the bandwidth that we have considered is, let us assume here in terms of omega. So if we have considered it well within that of the particular thing, we have the constant factor which is present here. This constant factor 1 over ts is exactly the same as that of the x of t that we have got for the sample signal xs of t. I repeat, we conclude that within the original given bandwidth, the spectrum xs of f, the spectrum xs of sampled signal xs of t is within a constant time factor. You can see that is t of s, which is again lying just like our original signal here. At this, what is the original signal, and here it is 2ts, and here the same impulse function is repeating, which is 2 times ts. So that is a constant factor which is exactly the same as my original signal x of t. So so by this we can say that the sampling has happened for the given original signal. In addition to this, we can also look at that the sample is repeating itself periodically. The sample at fs here, whatever a pulse is there, it is trying to repeat periodically after every fs seconds. So after every fs, we are going to have the original x of f, magnitude of x of f being getting repeated here one after the other continuously. So that is what we are capable of observing, that if at every fs hertz the sample is keep on repeating. One more thing to observe is, as I already told, the sample is getting repeated continuously here. How it is repeating? It is repeating because we have chosen the sampling rate f of s to be equal to twice that of fm. So this is for the case when my fs is equal to twice that of fm, and each spectra replicate itself by separating or by getting separated from its neighboring band for every f of s time interval. So that is what we are trying to observe here, and each band whatever is present is always separated by a frequency fs hertz. So from this we can easily reconstruct back, from this we can easily get back our original message signal just by passing it through the low pass filter. Now consider a case when my fs is going to be greater than twice that of fm. So what does it mean? It means that whenever I consider the signal sampling frequency fs is greater than twice that of fm, the replication of the signals will move farther apart. or are going to be placed apart in frequency domain. So what does this do when I still clearly replicate them farther apart from each other? I can easily reconstruct my original message signal with the help of the filter. So that is what is represented here as soon as I place the filter with a frequency band of -fm to fm, I'm going to get the recovered waveform from the sampled data. So that can be done whenever I have my frequency fs to be greater than twice that of fm. Now let us consider one more case when my sampling frequency fs is less than twice of fm. What does it mean if it is less than twice of fm? I am trying to pull the impulse response. I am trying to pull the waveform inside my original signal. So if this is the original signal that is present, I am bringing it less than that of the fs. As I know it is always placed at fs frequency apart, that fs is now going to fall well within this range, which is going to bring the signal within my original signal or within my message signal, which will create the overlapping of the signal here. So that overlapping of the signal, which is seen here in the diagram, it is present here in these diagrams, which is going to be distorting my original message signal. So this distortion of the message signal, I should avoid it by an phenomenon which I call it as aliasing. So the information here, the result of undersampling. Result of undersampling means whenever I choose the frequency of the samples fs to be less than twice that of fm, we call that as the undersampling. So that undersampling criteria will leads to what is called as it will lead to a function, or it will lead to a noisy kind of thing or a overlapped kind of thing, which we call it as aliasing, distorting the original information signal. So that is why we always must consider, to avoid this aliasing effects, I should have the Nyquist criteria to be taken into consideration. What is that Nyquist criterion? Nyquist criterion is Fs should be always greater than or equal to twice that of Fm. This is what we call it as Nyquist criterion. This is considered in order to avoid the aliasing effect due to the undersampling of the frequency. Undersampling means what? I am trying to sample at too lowest rate or at a lower rate. So that is what is the condition for the under sampling. So in this session we have referred to the definition of sampling. We have also looked at the Nyquist rate. We have looked at the types of sampling, or we have classified the samplings as ideal sampling, natural sampling, and then the last one, which is flat top sampling. So out of that we have started our study with the very first one, which is ideal sampling or impulse sampling. So in this we have looked for the spectrum representation for various sampling rates when fs is going to be exactly equal to the Nyquist rate, that is twice that of fm, and when fs is going to be greater than twice that of fm, and when fs is less than twice that of fm, which is for undersampled case, which resulted in what is called as aliasing effect. So in order to overcome that aliasing effect, we have to always choose the Nyquist rate or the sample rate to be greater than or equal to twice that of fm, which we called it as Nyquist criteria. So that's about sampling theorem, types of sampling, and ideal sampling. So let us in the next session move on to what is called as natural sampling. And the most or the biggest drawback that we have seen here in this particular session is we cannot create the train of impulse responses. If we can remember the properties of an impulse response, I can never have the impulse response train being created, so that is the major drawback. Practically it is not possible, so theoretically it is possible. So in order to have the practical implementation of the sampling process, we'll be moving on to the next sampling process, which is natural sampling process, or which is pulse sampling, which we will look in our next session. Thank you.